Hello, friends of Plant Talk. Today it is finally time to talk and spend more time with myrrh, Commiphora myrrh or Commiphora mulmul, the beautiful, beautiful resin. And I don't know about you, but this time of year is always a time for resins. For years, it's just like, it's not just the Christmas association that some of us may have, but there's that slowing down, spending time inside. Today, it's early December, and it's gloomy. It gets dark sooner here in this part of the world, in New York and many other places. Just shorter days, spending more time inside, feeling cozy. Today, it's starting to rain, and it's just myrrh time. And quite recently, I just put up and spent a lot of time with myrrh and writing about myrrh. And it's on my blog. If you go and look for Plant Talk Myrrh, you'll see a writing piece, and I'll be referencing that. So as with most plant talks, or all of them, we spend time with the plant. I read you 1 or 2 or 3 poems. I have 3 poems to share. The last one I'll read, I wrote a few years ago, and I just revisited it a few weeks back when I was spending a lot of time with myrrh. So if you spend time with me at the end, you can hear my poem. And so you'll notice we're in my office. I can't be with a myrrh tree. Myrrh doesn't grow here unless I tried it as a bonsai, which some people do. Myrrh is in the Burseraceae family, in the Bursar family, also known as the torchwood family. These are resinous-bearing trees, and they love the dry tropics to the subtropical areas around the world. So maybe you know elemi from the Philippines, frankincense species from even India, and notice we're kind of more we're in that tropical area over to Palo Santo in Ecuador, and there's many other species. So myrrh, we often think in conjunction, there's the Jesus with the gifts of the wise men, but myrrh and frankincense go hand in hand together, and they'll grow in the same area. I'm not saying they grow next to each other. Myrrh will like to spend time alone, and we'll get into some of its growing habits and preferences. But one thing that you might find, as I do, is that myrrh is yin energy. It's feminine and more of a wet quality. And frankincense is its counterpart of that more yang, more active. Not to say that myrrh is passive, no way is she passive. But it's totally different energies of the same thing, right? In this time of the year, we're approaching the solstice, and you can't have one without the other. To love the darkness, you love the light, and you need both to realize the other and realize the good qualities of both. And so this myrrh, to think about and riff on that qualities, it's cool. And one thing about myrrh, in my understanding, I've never met a myrrh tree. I'd like to one day. It's known to grow in Oman, Saudi Arabia, over to the parts of Africa like Somalia. I'm going to say the Horn of Africa, I was forgetting the term. Somalia, Kenya, Ethiopia, and a few other places. Myrrh is very short, scraggly, very thorny looking, and it won't grow on the ocean or seas, and it doesn't love the water that much. It's adapted to grow inland a little bit, but not too far, and it will find its way. I was reading a scientific piece about myrrh being studied in Saudi Arabia. Myrrh will find the cracks and crevices. So let's pretend I'm in a dry, desert, and there might be some kind of land formation like this, and myrrh will find the cracks. It will find the cracks and get the water that way that it needs. And that is so inspiring. And half the time of the year, they look dormant because they have adapted to live in the desert, and when the rains come, a flush of leaves will come out, and then flowers and, of course, fruits from the myrrh tree, which I wonder what those taste like. Probably bitter. I'm riffing on that. I have no idea. Myrrh is very bitter. You taste it. It's bitter, acrimonious, and it's called bitter myrrh. You'll see something else in the market is called more like sweet myrrh or opopanax. So I'm just going to reference my notes. But I just found that really curious when you spend time with the oil and that watery quality comes out and you think and notice how it grows and where it grows, that information's there. And that's just so beautiful coming through in the plant. So this is, I mentioned the torchwood family it's called. I'm gesturing down here. You'll see my little setup. I have some of the resin. I have a little incense burner and I have some oils. Myrrh is hard and brittle. It's the resin, the pieces, the tree is scarred or incised. It could be naturally occurring in the fissures from cracking open. The trees they're incised or cut, so then out from the ducts in the tree come the sap, basically. You can think of it that way. It's not the sap, but necessarily. Out come the sap, it dries, and what happens is it dries, and these are called oleogum resins generally. Myrrh does have some water-soluble components, but not a lot. Frankincense has quite a bit. You could drink frankincense water. This is incredibly soluble, these tears they're called, in alcohol. Very soluble in alcohol. It's nice to work with the tincture, but I digress with that. This does not like to burn as readily as putting like a frankincense tear on charcoal or some fashion or a hot plate. You'll notice this little plate I have. Hot plate, it's quite hot. The myrrh won't really fizzle. This is just newly on. It won't really melt that much. It softens, it melts a little bit. But if you melt like frankincense, it'll kind of melt and ooze because has more gum in it. It's softer. This is brittle and bitter. And I hate saying that because that has I think bad connotations, but it's not. That's that nature, and you have to think about when this comes in. Myrrh is just, for centuries, wound healing. It gets in those cracks, and its bitterness actually stimulates the appetite. It's great for oral care, but we can get into that later. I really just want to stress how this doesn't readily burn. And one thing you want to do, and if you're going to distill this beautiful resins, you want to increase surface area. So I've done this when I have put this on my little hot plate here. You want to crush it. And with a lot of resins, you want to freeze it first, actually, because they're so gummy. But frankincense is a little less gummy. So you want to put it in a nice powder if you're going to make a tincture, or if you're going to put it on a hot plate and try to burn it. Increase that surface area. And one thing I found, that I really enjoy doing with just the resin here with my little hot plate, I love having it near me when I'm working. And a lot of the resins are known, just all of them, let's just say for argument's sake, known to be very balsamic on the lungs and soothing on the lungs. And I've noticed with myrrh, and there's science behind this, it's fortifying for the heart and the circulatory system, but it's very relaxing and opening for the lungs, very gorgeous. And many of the oleogum resins are known to have that quality. So I loved having this by me and seeing ever so faintly, unlike other resins, the myrrh vapor comes off and you can breathe it in, and it's so subtle and it's so beautiful on the respiratory tract. Again, this is kind of special. I would think like steam vapor and just helping with the lungs. It's gorgeous, just gorgeous stuff. I feel like I can go, I didn't know, I could probably go on about myrrh for 40 minutes. So this is known as Commiphora, Myrrh, or Molmol, M-O-L-M-O-L. They're thought to be or recognized as interchangeable. You'll find one, if plants move and migrate in locations, they adapt. So you might find some different qualities, but the resin and the tree is considered the same. So You could, of course, go and read all this yourself. I want to talk about highlights. So right now I want to read a poem. It's one of my favorite parts of Plant Talk. And, of course, the plant. Beautiful myrrh. So this is by an American poet named Nikki, Nikki, Umel. And it's called Altar. So I am going to nod that most of us, if I may speak for us, have religious connotations with myrrh and very spiritual connotations with myrrh, and like most resins. And that comes through in two of the poems, and also with passage and death, which is pretty deep, right? But energy, you could talk about energy work and energy never being neither created nor destroyed, which is beautiful. And this one, so altar. We are both mortar and pestle. We grind our bones down for creation, bury our dust deep. Seeds we water with mouths full of yes. We breathe deep. Roots we grow with lips of oh. We make ourselves anew, wash each other's bodies in frankincense and myrrh, adorn each other's arms in bracelets of gold. We spread palms across the floor and prepare to embrace God who comes when he is called. So I was reciting that before just to get familiar with it again. And of course I was like, when she is called, of course, too, because God is God. And I just wrote, God is within us, the knowledge is in us here on earth and sky. So spread palms across the floor and prepare to embrace God who comes when he or she is called. Seeds bury our dust deep, seeds we water with mouths full of yes. I just think it's just so human. We are both mortar and pestle, grind our bones down for creation. I just think literally with the myrrh and the mortar and pestle, that just what a beautiful poem, and the adornment and just being ready. Myrrh was used in funerary rites and embalming, mummification. It's a bitter aromatic, it's drawing, it of course has an aroma, incredible antimicrobial. It's used in mouthwashes a lot. But that being and preparing yourselves, I didn't even think about how beautiful that is. When we prepare ourselves and take care of ourselves, our bodies are temples, right? This is called altar. But when we take care of ourselves, we are taking care of the world when you think about it, because then you're tending to the energy of yourself and the world and health. I didn't think about that till now in relation to this poem. How beautiful. So myrrh. So myrrh means bitter. Bitter myrrh. So lovely. Such a nice taste. I made a tincture that I have in a mouthwash recipe, but it's just, I have here, yeah, healing of wounds, embalming, funerary rites. I'm just going to read this about the personality of myrrh. Myrrh represents sadness that comes with wisdom earned from a life of scarcity, being burned, scorched, and dried. Think the desert. Its growing conditions favor access to moisture in cracks and crevices, associating it with the dark, cooling qualities of caves and inner sanctums. Myrrh shows us we don't need much. Myrrh has reserve and calls upon the hermit archetype, if you think about Jungian concepts or the tarot deck. Myrrh, I'll just keep reading this. Ability to bleed into the body, drawing everything inwards with powers of somberness and subtlety. Those are two key words about myrrh, somberness and subtlety. Somber doesn't mean sad or depressive. It's pensive. It's wisdom. Myrrh is wisdom. Myrrh is crone energy. And I like to think about the male counterpart to that. But again, this is more of, I feel, a yin oil. However deep its actions on the mind-body are, they lack an expected heaviness. It's like a light veil that drapes and seeps. Think about the vapors coming into the lungs and soothing the lungs, stimulating the heart, and expanding the breath. And the energy, when repeatedly, it is cardiac notch. It is about dealing with your stuff and excavating and sitting with it gently. That, to me, is myrrh. So, I encourage you to go and read this about myrrh. I'm going to save talking about nervous system and emotional support and stuff like that for a little bit. I want to read another poem. But, myrrh, it's just so fun. This is one of the first oils I really spent time with. Like, this is probably years ago. And it's just something about it. And I remember I had the myrrh, and I had a little ultrasonic diffuser. And what did I know back then? Not a lot at all about the oils. Myrrh will harden. It wants to go back to its resinous state, let's just put it that way. If you have a bottle, the oil won't be bad. It's just high in sesquiterpenes, it's heavier, but it starts to get crusty. A couple weeks ago, I needed pliers to get off one bottle. I have one bottle that's almost empty. It gets kind of not better with age, but it has a longer shelf life. It's very resinous, and you want to think sticky and gummy. Do not put it in diffusers, especially your ultrasonic. It will get really sticky, so I'll clean it with alcohol solvent. This is why I actually prefer the gentleness of the burning, having it in the hot plate. Just very subtle, and you get the effect of it. But a really resinous, think that bitter brittleness, very digestive too. The bitter flavor is very digestive. This would often be incorporated in wine, is my understanding biblically, and this would be the New Testament, that Jesus was given wine with myrrh in it when he was on the cross. Very symbolic. And if you want to think about that too, frankincense, you can think about spirit welcoming the sun as we're going to be welcoming the solstice. And then that cyclicality, myrrh on the cross, and it's the complete life cycle. It's the rite of passage, and it is the rite of passage. I want you to read my piece. I won't share all my secrets. Let me see. So let me read the poem. I segued into this poem is by Lisa Russ Spaar, or Spar, S-P-A-A-R, and it's called Temple Tomb. So this is about Jesus and the rebirth of the ascension, and when Mary Magdalene sees him. So this is, and it quotes the biblical passages. So this is called Temple Tomb. And just so you understand, because I had to read this up, I had to reference the Bible to understand what was going on here. This is when Mary Magdalene sees him, and she mistakes him for a gardener. So this is from John chapter 20, verses 11 through 18. In this marrow season, trunks tarnished, pause, I am garden, I am before, asleep, then the changes, placental, myrrhed, wet hem when you appeared. What did your body ever have to do with me? In my astonished mouth, in skulled jawbone guessed, though as yet I didn't know you. You sprung, you now intransitive, tense with heaven. Gardener, which of us said do not touch? Which one of us was undressed? I mean, whether you are Christian or not, like, that's just deep. And I just wrote a couple hours ago when I was just rereading this to digest it more. This is the astonishment of transformation. Which one was undressed? Like spiritual realization, revelation, these gifts that are given to us. I'm going to start tearing up. The beauty of life. Oh, who knew? It's pretty deep. So we think about the astonishment of transformation, and we can work with essential oils to help transform ourselves or realize some things and help us make subtle shifts. And I'm thinking now about the winter solstice and the new coming of light, and other associations like the Christmas, celebrating light, and Hanukkah and other holidays. So it's just, what a beautiful poem to think about the astonishment, not believing, and you now intransitive tense with heaven. My gosh, it's so beautiful. But the astonishment of transformation is just what I got from that. And seeing in disbelief, gardener, who are you? Just amazing, beautiful things. So it's already, I'm waxing poetically forever. Let me talk about a few oils and blending ideas. And just myrrh sits with you, and I have my notes you can read online. It brings you inward, and it helps with the heart and circulation and the lungs and breathing. And I write, it's excavating, and it stills you. This goes into blending with like nervous system. If you're scattered and frenzied, you don't really want to turn to frankincense or something maybe. Maybe you want to go a little deeper and calmer. Think of that yin cave-like energy. And you want to sit with it and process maybe. And myrrh brings you, to me, just repeatedly, this really pleasant state of catatonia, I call it. A catatonic state of just being there and sitting. And it's okay. It's not depressive. It's not sleepy. It's, again, think of that cave holding womb. I don't want to say womb, but the holding. But I guess I'm going into the womb. We're talking about cave and yin energy. Just gorgeous stuff. So with the nervous system, I touched on that. So pensive, somber, fortifying, calming to the scattered mind, heart. Even though I associate resins a bit differently, but the myrrh is just a different personality. So I have a suggestion to blend with some things like the sage's geranium. I just got a new geranium. It arrived yesterday. Where did you go? Oh, I don't know where it went. All my oils are over there. Oh well, that's sad when you just misplace a brand new oil. This is why plant talk is fun. It's all impromptu. You really have no idea what's going to happen. It's like me misplacing a brand new beautiful bottle of geranium, which I know you're here. So with geranium, any of the sages, I decided to have, I want clary sage. I guess I have to go to my little oil collection here. Sage, where are you? Oh, I put it in my perfume oil box. That's where it is. So clary sage and myrrh. And I have for skincare palmarosa, but honestly, when you blend with essential oils as an aromatherapist, you're thinking about the therapeutics and their personalities. And what's good for the skin might be just as beautiful on the mind. And when you make a skincare product, of course you're impacting the mind through multiple channels, just about taking care of yourself and the nervous system impact the oils have. So that's palmarosa, clary sage, and myrrh. Of course, I have here rose for the nervous system, but that heart, getting myrrh, getting to that soul. Myrrh is soul, it is yin, earth, of the earth, just beautiful. Respiratory support. Excuse me, palmarosa. Respiratory support, any of the conifers, honestly, if you can. I pulled cypress. Cypress and balsam fir for respiratory support. So think about a chest salve, Remember, myrrh in the diffuser is not so good. Oh, you're so lovely. The cypress and cedarwood, Cedrus atlantica. Very more of the depth, great for the lungs. Again, respiratory salve. Balsam fir. Let me put cypress to the side. Very nice respiratory support. Myrtle, myrrh and myrtle. Two MYs. Like, how often do you get to blend that way? Blending based on letters. Oh, Myrtle. She's such a friend. Yeah, but that myrrh really holds, it supports, and not to think bass notes and things like that, but it holds the blend, it holds you, can really provide structure in that way. So really great for respiratory catarrh, congestion, really severe irritation you want to think about that way with myrrh. Oh, that's why too. I pulled red myrtle from my lineup there of our friends of oil. For skin health, a dry, damaged, cracked skin, think like the desert. This is just an amazing antimicrobial friend to have. Dry, cracked, rose, palmarosa, patchouli, vetiver, sandalwood. I have copaiba, another resin, just soothing and calming and so beautiful. I wish I could just blend all day, but like, what do you do with all the things you make? Can I just sit around? Because you can't, there's only so much you could use. That brings us to a point too, right? You need to have intention. My intention with Plant Talk was just to wax poetically on and on. I see the timing we're at. We'll go to 30 minutes, I think. I like to think of these as a really low budget PBS show, or maybe on the radio. Maybe you want to listen to Plant Talk when you're driving in your car or walking down the street. Don't be too distracted though. But it's fun to talk with plants for 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. So again, please check out the Plant Talk article that I wrote, but there's just some ideas, but really shining for, of course, the emotions, the nervous system, realizing mind and body are the same, the skin repair, aged, cracked, infected skin. I've used with some myrrh hydrosol on open wounds, just really, really beautiful in that respiratory support. So, I just love myrrh. I don't know if you can tell. I love all the plants. So myrrh, this is a poem I wrote a few years ago, and then I revisited. So I haven't read this in a little bit, so you're reading this with me for the first time in a week or so. So literally, maybe it was 3 or 4 years ago, I literally woke up and I dreamt of myrrh. So I was like, I have to write about this. So the first line, it starts out that way. Last night I dreamt of myrrh. The deep, sticky dryness penetrated my body like the many embalmed before. Under the unforgiving sky of endless blue beckons a cool, dimly lit cave. Wafts of smoke carried along the air, inviting those who seek refuge. In the somber solitude, fountains of grief flow deeply into acrimonious puddles, extinguishing the brittle armor festooned around my heart. Whose hands touched my drying lips? The bitterness scraped away the crumbs of ego, the veil of chaos lifted. The holes closed up like old wounds. This once restless soul, encumbered by the weight of being, now painted with myrrh, may now finally rest, spirit alighted. It's pretty deep. I wrote that and I'm tearing up. But this just, I think it speaks for itself, but just speaking to some of those qualities of myrrh. And I noted that in my writing that with myrrh, it's so excavating. I noticed myself tearing up quite, not crying, but tearing up. And it's just, it really helps excavate things, unearth, you could say. Kind of touching on that ending of old, you can think, like death doesn't always have to literally mean death and whatever your beliefs are, but myrrh, just excavating and reconciling and processing and having that quality of groundedness and soothingness to support in that way. It's pretty powerful. But I'm going on for too long. 3 poems is a lot. So I hope you spend time with myrrh. I hope you enjoy these plant talks. And as I say at every plant talk, so thank you, and love yourself, and love the plants, and I love you, and I love myrrh, and be in touch. So thank you so much, and be well.